There, everybody, and welcome to Quacken Smite League Season 11, this time with the Puddles Division. My name is Judas Priestley, joined today by Henergy, and we have an absolute stormer of a game today, as it is the Mystic Sea Serpents versus the Food Fighters, both coming into this week off of a loss in week number 1. Now, the other teams that also lost in week number 1 happened to win in week number 2. So that means, Energy, this game today is officially the Toilet Bowl.
Indeed, it is. And I, for one, really love the energy that teams bring into matches like these, where you're coming off the loss, you're really trying to get back on track, set the tone again. So I would expect us to see a pretty decent performance from both of these teams today.
Yeah, everyone wants to tidy it up. We'll surely have to work on whatever went wrong in week number 1. So let's see how they decide to do that as we head on in to picks and bans for this first game. And like you said, both teams will be very disappointed in their loss. I believe Mystic Sea Serpents actually lost 2-0, whereas the Food Fighters at least only lost 2-1. So they have maybe a little bit more confidence coming into it. But like you said, it is really all about bouncing back.
Yeah, you never want to go and have two back-to-back weeks of losses, but unfortunately, that will be the case for one of these teams.
Absolutely.
But I am interested to see what teams are looking to prioritize here, and it does look like we're going to see some Guardians getting taken away first, with the Bake and the Athena going away.
Yeah, understandable for both of these gods. You
Mm-hmm.
know, Athena seems like she's been just a top ban consistently. I think the only competitive Smite game I've seen Athena go through unbanned is actually Season 10 Worlds Finals, where it was terrible in Game 1 and then didn't come back after that. Aside from specifically that set, Every
Mm-hmm.
other game, Athena seems to have been banned away. But similarly so for Kabaki Kujira. Pretty much since this god's release, I think I've seen them in one competitive match. Unsurprisingly, they dominated, and then we have not seen them again. So the bans have been very, very consistent. We see the Charon actually being banned here, being a bit of an outlier. Maybe there's
Mm-hmm.
someone on the Food Fighters that the Mystic Sea Serpents are aware of who actually really enjoys the Charon. But with a Toth ban, a Kukulkan ban, it looks pretty standard so far.
It does. Getting rid of those artillery mages and the ones with really easy clear, both pretty standard for the meta right now. And we are going to see Hachi to round out the last or the first round of bans, which also seems pretty standard. High pressure, good range damage, solid pick overall.
Yeah, Hachiman being one of those gods that a lot of people would consider just the most highest value pick at the
Mm-hmm.
moment because there's not really any ADCs that stand up to him particularly well. There are certain things you can do to play around that god, but it's just a safe, solid pick. But with that banned away, it does leave open the Bologna, which is a god we almost always see being top picked at the moment. Just does pretty much what Hachiman does as well. Pretty good. Clear, good pressure. It can also play pretty much however you want them to play, right? You don't really give away a lot of your composition by picking up this Bologna early, and it's just really solid for you to draft.
It really is. Just great pressure for the solo lane, pretty good utility as you've mentioned. Now on the other side, we're going to see a Rama Sobek lane get locked in. So there's the duo lane taken care of. Decent amount of pressure. I feel like we've been seeing kind of since Worlds a little bit of a Sobek resurgence. And Rama will pretty much slot into any comp. You know what he does. It's consistent. It's good damage come the late game. No complaints here with this draft.
Yeah, point and click and shoot pretty much from
Mm-hmm.
Rama. It's like you said, very simple. And again, similarly to the Bologna, and I guess the Sobek fits this too, where it really doesn't give away a whole lot of your composition. You can
Right.
pick pretty much any god around this. Whether you're drafting for early game or late game, Rama does everything excellently too. But Wheelix actually coming out now for the Mystic Sea Serpents. It's a relatively early Wheelix draft, but obviously want to avoid it being banned out for this second phase. But there's not a whole lot of setup to help this jungler out at the moment.
No, not so much. I mean, on her jump is a classic setup for a Wheelix, really, if you think about it. But yeah, it is a pretty early pick, though, and I am concerned that that's going to become a problem for them come the second half of this draft. I don't mind the on her getting picked up here. I think in terms
Yeah.
of matching up into the Rama, it does decently. The Chalk is an interesting choice, though. We've kind of seen him floating back in like periodically. Does I'm gonna say okay, but not great into the Bologna. I think that's gonna be more of a late game pick. He's not really gonna lose you the
Yeah.
lane, but he's not really gonna win you anything either.
No, not the type to take over a lane into a Bologna. There are certain gods where maybe Chak can be a bit more of a bully, but Bologna can kind of hold her own into it. And like you said, Chak will just provide more of a solid front line. I think it's almost a stylistic choice between Chak and Bologna at the moment, whereas Bologna is the type that gets on a backliner and just kills them, whereas Chak kind of does a bit of everything, can provide that extra frontline space into enemy frontliners, but also can dive the backline and really disrupt whatever they want to do. It might be a little bit difficult as a Chak to dive into an Anher or an Wheelix if a Wheelix is trying to, hide on the sideline. So going to be not the most simple team fight, but at the end of the day, it's chalk. You can throw axes and just stand in the way, and you're going to be at least doing a little bit of your job. But we do get around to the second phase of bans, and like you mentioned earlier, lots of Guardian focus in the bans,
Hmm.
and actually Ares and Geb being banned out here. I don't really see a whole lot of strength behind those gods, so it is a bit surprising. But we do see Thanatos banned out, which is probably the least surprising ban of these four, because Morgan Le Fay also banned away. I'm not quite sure where these bans are coming from. A little bit out of left field, but I mean, if this is what the teams are happy to ban, this is what they're going to go for.
Very much so. I don't necessarily see the value in an Ares ban. The Geb makes a little bit of sense, if only because that's a little bit of setup for the Awilix. I definitely agree on the Thanatos ban. I think that that's really smart. Morgan, I could take or leave. I feel like it's just one of those. It's kind of a comfort pick. It's kind of an artillery mage. You know what she does, and she's disruptive. So maybe you just don't want to add that in to all the other disruption that food fighters have going. I am
Yeah,
interested to see, as we see an Anubis getting hovered, I am interested to see where that goes. I'll never complain about seeing an Anubis because that means we're guaranteed an interesting game. Not necessarily a good performance, but an interesting game.
That is one of the things that Anubis does, almost similarly to, for example, Zeus, whatever the
Yeah.
situation is, however the game goes, it's going to revolve around what that pick does. But instead, it will be a more traditional selection in the mid lane for this Agni coming through for the food fighters. And I think that's maybe a little bit more consistent into something like an Orwelix Anher.
Yeah, Agni, a much better pick, I would say. Pretty good setup as well. Consistent damage. I feel like Agni consistently gets to this second round of bans. It's very rare that we see him, or pardon me, second round of picks. It's very rare that we see him in the top half, even though he consistently provides really great value. He just like, oh yeah, there's Agni. Shoot, we forgot about him again. But as we do see the Yamoja get hovered, I do kind of like that here. Yamoja really great at kind of dividing up that team fight and sustaining, and I feel like this team that Food Fighters has drafted really has no leaps, except for the little chalk teleport. So being able to lock down portions of the map with the ult is going to be really crucial.
I will say, and this is fully from a point of view of someone who is absolutely not a hater. In fact, I would consider myself likely a Puddles Division player myself. But a Puddles Division player dragging out the Yamoja after a 2-0 loss in week one, that's some bravery. I'm not sure. I can't say the phrase on cast, but I will say it must be difficult for this player to sit down right now. It's one of those things that it's very hard to play consistently on Yamoja. She's a very strong guard at especially the top end of Smite. We always see when Yamoja is strong, the top players are picking her up and makes it so this guard is just unbelievably strong and surely has to be banned out. But in the hands of anyone in a Puddles division or even a division above that, it is so difficult to provide consistent CC. And I think we're going to have to keep very close eye on this Yamoja just to see how consistently it performs.
Very much so. In a way, it's kind of good that we're seeing it because that means that the confidence isn't totally gone, and you're never going to get better if you don't like keep pulling it out,
Absolutely.
even if the performance isn't always there. Now, the
Yeah.
Merlin is also an interesting choice here. I feel like obviously we know what Merlin brings: a ton of objective shred, late game damage, kind of a lackluster early game, and is kind of susceptible to some of these early game aggressions that could tentatively be provided by a Thor or a Robin, as the case may be. And we are going to see the Robin get locked in last here. Kind of not a great matchup for Merlin. He is going to struggle, and he's going to probably get chased down. But come the late game, that damage is going to come online, and it'll make things that much more difficult for this dive comp.
Yeah, it all depends now on if the Mystic Sea Serpents can provide for this Merlin to get all of this damage off, because there are a lot of good targets, Raven, Chuck, and Sobek. Surely the front line you're going to be looking to shred down, but with the way that Merlin works, just the way that his damage output is, you're going to have to try to keep these guards locked in a location for long enough to do it. And Yamoja, if they hit a sick ult, which I'm sure they're more than capable of doing here, then all of a sudden you've got free reign for this Merlin to just go off on some of these gods. So very excited to see if they can pull this combo off. But with that in mind, Hergy, I do want to get your opinion of these two drafts in a blanket. Let's assume it's not Puddles Division and we are just full on gaming. Which of these two sets of drafts do you prefer?
It's really tough because I like elements of both of these. I think I would probably land on Food Fighters though. I do think that the Rama Agni backline is I like it a little bit more than the On Her Merlin. But I think it also is going to come down to a lot of execution. They've really built around setting up this Awelix. They've got 4 characters with knockups in different forms.
Yep.
If they can execute on that correctly, I think that Mystic Sea Serpents will have a great time in this matchup.
Well, yeah, if they can put that all together, it will be a good time, that's for sure. But let's get on in to game number 1 and see if it can all be put together. Now, it is always good to see when you see these sort of standard drafts. No one's playing anything too crazy because, of course, coming off of a week 1 loss, you don't really want to do something nuts like throw the chalk in the jungle and have like the Raven solo and everything. Don't mix it up. Let's just play standard and see how you come out. And I'm always a big fan of that. So nice to see these two teams go for it. But with these two compositions, you said which one you would prefer overall, but who do you expect to get the sort of early edge here?
I would expect the early edge probably to go the way of Mystic Sea Serpents, if only because I feel like a Wheelix's first 3 levels are so strong. Having said that, we are going to see some pretty early aggression in this duo side.
Yeah, good pin coming out there from Fuego Maego just to nullify any sorts of aggression. It looks like Stooms did sort of get a little bit too aggressive there. You are a emoji. You can't afford to be getting plucked like this early, and now in some danger. The Horrific comes out, counted out instead by that Meditation Cloak that has been picked up by this Emoji. So very heads up play, but another pluck coming out from
Goodness.
Alisson there. That's 3 in a row, and if you're hitting them this consistently, as hold on, we're going to be in for a bit of a battle here. Fantastic pin into the wall, but that guy Mufasa has to roll away, and now falling down low is Gods Will Crumble on the Wheelix, who has what you'd said, a fantastic first 3 levels, but will fall down before hitting the 3rd one.
Yeah, I hate to be judgmental, but I really question the efficacy of ganking that early with the health bars the way they were.
Yeah.
You really don't want to be gifting food fighters any early advantage because they are going to scale pretty well, and it just seems like a little bit of maybe a miscommunication there. But we are going to see, yeah, some fighting over the mid camps, and because it's a Wheelix, at least she gets back to lane pretty easily, and pretty decent poke onto the Agni.
That's a ton of poke onto the Agni, actually. He was full health just a few seconds ago. All of a sudden, all of that health has diminished, but it was all for a couple of mid camps, and getting that early on is what you want. And Stump's not having a great time here. Has been consistently plucked so far by Alisson, just nailing these charge praise, and the pressure coming out from Rama in conjunction with that will be a big pain. But Gods Will Crumble now gets a rotation onto Stretch Milk, who is more than happy to just axe over the wall and get back to safety. So despite falling down early, this Wheelix still remaining active on the map.
Still remaining active, and I feel like that's kind of what you have to do with this Wheelix. Like, you can't let an early setback really prevent you from doing what you're really good at. So, it's good to see the rotation still happening. As long as a Wheelix makes sure to keep up the farming level as well, it shouldn't affect them too much. It's still an early game, gold lead is minimal. And man, I am just impressed at how much aggression there is in this duo side. Like, for all of the times that Stoom's been plucked, it's the Wheelix who ends up dying first, and that's just kind of funny. Oh.
Yeah, I mean, look, Alisson has... We haven't been watching the entire time on that duo lane, but it has been so many charge praise hit. It's got to be feeling good at the moment. Confidence must be high, and confidence high for Kingston, who really should not be so confident, because here comes the cavalry to secure that blue buff, and now try to find a return kill on this right-hand side. Kingston gets a good angle out, has a good path to retreat. There's not any backup on the way, though. Has to do this all by themselves, but hold on, here comes A1 to try to save them, and does for a moment, putting out the flamethrowers, but now it's A1 instead who falls down, goes in for the save, throws up a surrender vote, and I don't blame you, buddy. Having done all that to peel for your teammate, you end up paying the price.
Yeah, you know, it's hard to break down where exactly that went wrong. I guess impressive work. Woo! Oh, that is a deep dive early, and is just going to get out by the skin of his teeth, so Wheelix returning 1 with a 1-for-1 exchange. Now... It was very short-lived, that 1v1 exchange. I'll own that. So this could be a 1-for-2. But good heads-up awareness from Robin to continue to chase out that kill. Obviously, a Wheelix could have died to probably a light gust of wind at that point. Still important, a Wheelix is able to finish up the Jotuns and get back out there again, start rotating. So
I think doing anything to make that death from the Merlin counted out, I think that at least keeps A1 within the fight, right? Falling down to your opposing mid laner, it's just a very tough spot to be in, because then all of a sudden you're not the one in the driving seat when it comes to these rotations. You know, you can't, if you both encounter each other in the jungle, it's generally going to go the way of the other. So I think having a way to at least keep your Merlin at parity is very strong. That actually gets the Book of Thoth online first, so I don't blame the Wheelix going for that kill. Maybe could have just ditched that green buff. Certainly didn't need to take that one down. But Kingston now in a bit of danger. Does manage to get the Eagles Rally away. Stretch Milk wants this, as does Tropical Dak, but that will be that. On the right-hand lane, this Bologna lives yet again with no health and no mana.
Indeed. Can we get a look at wards placed? I know it's a little bit early, but we're seeing oh goodness. Okay. Well, I'm glad that the duo lane has good vision on it.
The
um,
supports, man, they're doing it.
there's I
You know.
props to supports and props to Stoops because I know
Oh
that at
man.
one point, maybe a season and a half ago, I coached you to do just that. So I'm gonna take a little bit of credit. The chalk ult comes out kind of early, and oh no,
Oh,
I
that's
don't.
great.
It's
There's
great,
minion
but at the
wave.
same time, yeah, yeah, I guess that's
Yo,
true.
that was smart. Stretch milk there with a heads up play,
I
which
was not
certainly.
familiar with your game.
Go!
Incredible stuff there.
Yo! Oh, goes for the jukes there, does stretch milk, but it will not be enough.
Ah,
Very,
alas.
very good attempt there. Look, that's about as best
Yep.
you're going to make of that situation.
It really was. I am sorry, Stretch Milk. I was not familiar with your game. That was very clever. I did not see the minion wave there, but Wheelix is going to pick up another kill and even up her score at 2-2. Important to keep her in the game at this point. Robin can definitely snowball, and he's been involved in every kill on the side of food fighters. So anything you can do to kind of maintain parity, as you mentioned, is probably for the best. We are going to start to see some of those support items get finished here. So we've got the Prophetic on the side of Stoomps, and we've got the Gauntlet of Thebes for Elliston here. And the Devos are also starting to get finished. And yet again, Stoomps getting poked out really early on.
Yeah, Stoop's getting plucked. It's as consistent as the sun shall rise at the moment. But
Mm-hmm.
Allison nailing these, and it's not the easiest thing to do, you know. Even into a Yamoja who maybe is auto-attacking a little bit more regularly than another Guardian would, but he's coming out there from Fuego Maego too late on the bead, so another big win for Elliston. And now wants to dive this tower. Tropical Deck is on scene with the Mystic Rush. There comes the River's Rebuke, but it will not do anything to save them. Hold on, a fantastic Riptide there on the Tropical Deck will seal their fate. And now jumping in is Gods Will Crumble. Elliston can't escape because the Wheelix chases him down. That's 2 kills now on this left-hand side, this time going the way of Mystic Sea Serpents.
And yeah, evening up the kill count and basically evening up the gold there. Great rotations from Gods Will Crumble, and kind of a questionable engagement for food fighters. It felt like they were kind of engaging on the back foot already, and then the great Yamoja ult to separate that fight. So good work from Mystic Sea Serpents. Can't complain.
Yeah, that's what I think what we're seeing, where maybe Stoops is happy to pick up this emoji. You know, it's hard to dish out consistency, see, but if you can hit just a couple of good ultimates through a game, it can really turn the fights around. And if Stoops is confident that they will hit those big ults, almost worth picking up a god like this. So full respect to the confidence, but maybe a little overconfident. Does get a Riptide out. Oh, a fantastic pluck from Elliston. Uses the bank of the wall there to help them out. Now Stoops in some danger, gets rooted out. Stretch Milk falls on the right side through all this, but can Stoops get up? It's trading over on the right hand side, but Stoops still survives for a moment. Sentry making the long rotation over, and Fuego Maego now another backliner for the Mystic Sea Serpents, falling down for their frontliner. It might be considered a mistake, and so far, let the food fighters take a look at this Gold Fury. But now, A1 not being spotted out, not the best secure. That's been spotted out now. Tries to dish out their damage over the wall, shall do so, but has to retreat. That'll be a Gold Fury and a couple of kills on the left-hand side for the food fighters.
It will, and good presence of mind to push for that early objective. Even when the damage isn't that high, when you get like an imbalance like that, you really just should be taking all the objectives you're able to. So, love seeing a pre-10-minute Gold Fury. That's going to set them ahead for at least another 5 minutes or so.
Yeah, it makes a hell of a difference, you know, having the, like you said, the heads-up mind to actually go for that. It was so chaotic on screen because, you know, we saw all this aggression onto the support. They turned it onto Fuego Maego, the Anher, and there was something going on the right-hand lane. I'm not quite sure exactly what happened. I think Stretch Milk fell down, 2 Gods Will Crumble, and then traded themselves back. So, or it might have been actually Kingston falling there. Kingston picked up a death.
Kingston did fall. It looked like it was a tower dive onto the Chaos side, and that's probably what prompted the trade out.
It's typical, right? You go for the Gold Fury when your solo lane is being ganked, and if your solo laner trades themselves out in the meantime, that's just a huge win.
Yeah, Wheelock's really been maximizing farm, and the level disparity kind of shows just now ticking over to a 2-level disparity. But even so, at 10 minutes, that's pretty significant. Now, here's a question for you, kind of looking at the solo lane a little bit. Where do you stand on the first item, Blackthorn Hammer, for this chalk?
I mean, Blackthorn Hammer is an item that everyone wanted to see back, right? Because it was such a strong item. But now it's not really the same, you know. It doesn't quite do the same it used to. Hold on, maybe A wanted a little bit of
Ooh,
danger
yes.
here. Gets plucked. That's some big danger. Path of Flames doesn't connect. It's a good Riptide again, but Aliston manages to take them down. Tropical Deck doing whatever they want to on this Raven. Here come the solo laners wandering in from the left-hand side for some reason. There's an Eagles rally and then a retreat coming out from Kingston. That's about all they had in the tank, I suppose. Looks like first Beacon territory going the way of Food Fight. There's 5 members here from the Chaos Squad, which means that Fuego Maego fully able to rotate and split push on the left-hand side. I think Food Fight is gathered for that 11th minute beacon, but it doesn't spawn until the 12th minute. So now they kind of have to reset their sights, and they do set it onto Stumps instead. This Yamoja, very tanky, takes a lot of damage, has not yet fallen. Gods Will Crumble gets onto the enemy Agni there, and Stumps shall survive with that Meditation Cloak. The damage still not quite there, but a good knock up onto Aliston. Fantastic River's Rebuke almost locks them in, but the Sobek shall slither on away. Beacon's still on its way. Everyone wants to brawl in the mid lane. Gods Will Crumble wants to go back in. Stumps decides they don't need to back there. Yamoja, they got sustain. They can keep it going. Now it looks like finally everyone's backing away right as this beacon's due to spawn.
The perfect time to back, right when the thing you're fighting over is spawning. And I love, for one, casting arena games. No, this has been great. I love how passionate they are at fighting over even the smallest little bit of advantage. Love to see that passion. Having said that, kind of an awkward exchange there with the Raven into the Onher. Felt like neither one of them really had much kill potential. But we're going to see a little bit of a break, and teams are taking a breath, going back to farming. Maybe even putting down a ward would be great. But even with all of that, yeah, maybe, yeah. But with all of that, we've got a 2k gold lead, so still about the same as it was before, favoring Food Fighters. We've got a 3-kill disparity, also favoring Food Fighters. I have to wonder, now that the beacon is down, if we are going to see these teams have a tussle again when the Pyro spawns in a few seconds' time.
Yeah, a lot of people have lately been considering the Pyromancer one of the more important objectives, specifically that first Pyromancer. We typically see these teams now pick up that first Runic Bomb and use it to bomb down the tier 1 tower in the mid lane. Oh, Aliston, for the first time, I believe, off the map with a charge spray, but it's still the cue to go in for the Food Fighters. They do want to take this 2 versus 3. Odds be damned. They think they're going to win it, so they're going to go for it. But this might be a pseudo scuffle, actually, over this Pyromancer, like you said, or even the Gold Fury. Everyone's sort of making their mindset now on we want to get something done. Gods Will Crumble leaps into the Oracles and finds them already taken away, because quietly on the left-hand side, that guy Mufasa has got about 11.5 lead now over Fuego Maego, and the Rama's just having a free time over there.
Yes, he is, and why not? We've reached that kind of awkward stage of the game where it's either farm or fight over objective, and you know, who among us doesn't like a good totem fight? If Worlds taught us nothing else, it's that people will go insane for a good totem secure.
Yeah, I believe that went the way of Kingston there, you know, getting the...
I believe you're right. Oh, no, it went Stretch Milk. We've got the little aura around the tower.
Oh, nice spot. Yeah, you're right. Did go the way of Stretch Mark. So, big win for the Chuck. Probably the biggest win, we could say, on the map. You know, that totem, as mentioned, so important. And Food Fighters in the mid lane duly take notice of that aura and shall stand under their own tier 1 tower as Mystic Sea Serpents trying to pull them out of it. But again, the attention is clearly on these objectives. You see the way that both teams are positioning. They're always looking at these objectives when they can. And instead, looks like Purple Buff being the call for Food Fighters. Fuego Maego fully aware that this situation is developing, and that will be a free Purple Buff, triple split by the Food Fighters here on the left-hand side. And now everyone turns their attention back to this Gold Fury. Nobody wants it snuck away, but it seems like the Food Fighters, though, are the ones who want to press the issue.
Very much so, and I would suspect it's because they don't want to be in the position of trying to take an objective without clearing out and getting a kill first. We are going to see some pretty good aggression in this left side, and Rama beats are going to get popped.
And this is just will crumble, no cooldowns to work with. There gets the knockup, gets the gravity surge as well, but doesn't get the last hit.
Incredible.
And falls down. Great response there from Tropic Deck, just to put out all the damage that was needed to save their Rama. And that guy Mufasa, we mentioned had a free time over there. Does lose both relics in that engagement, but when it saves your life, it's almost worth it.
Yes, now here's a question. How quickly can a Yamoja Merlin clear? Actually, not too bad.
Pretty good. Yeah, the fire stance, especially from this Merlin. Oh, look, a River's Rebuke as well, just to secure.
That's a
Which
very
actually, oh, look at that. Look at the clairvoyance coming out there from Stoops. Knew exactly when those waves crushing in would secure that Pyromancer. Fantastic play there from the T-Moja. It does leave the Primal Fury exposed, and it shall be duly taken away by the Food Fighters as well. So trading objectives across the map. It's almost the best outcome for Mystic Sea Serpents, though. They're not really getting the edge in these fights, so at least keeping these timers synced is going to give you that option in the next 5 minutes as well.
Yeah. Yeah, you know, you take what you can get when you've got a disparity, and I love that for them. A very early River's Rebuke, but you know, at this stage, you may as well use it because you're not team fighting, as you mentioned. So, now with all of that being said, we are about due for a beacon to spawn. So, everyone's favorite topic, and it looks like teams have taken the step of not fighting a minute before it spawns this time in the same areas. That's a positive. We love growth. We love learning mid-game. Oh, just catching Rama at the edge. And the early cancellation, really smart play there.
Yeah,
unfortunately,
the will not come back up. Doesn't matter, because Gods Will Crumble has the backup of Fuego Mayago with that Desert Fury as well. So this space that the Rama has had has now been completely denied. Uh-oh. The dual lane is not a safe place for you to remain, my friends. Instead, looks like Tropic Deck just has eyes for the shield buff, not interested in the battle until right now. Mystic Rush right on the head of the Awilix, finds the last shot and shall take down their opposing number. Now, the Tier 1 tower has been taken down by Fuego Mayago, and they're trying to retreat, trying to find some backup, but there is none to be found. That will be an early cancellation there of the Lurking in the Waters, but Elson still shall get the kill, and just for tradition's sake, gets a pluck onto Stoops as well, who now finds themselves in a bit of danger. They don't have a lot of Omi to work with, so with this charge prey coming up in a second, A1 has provided some peel for their frontliner yet again, but they haven't learned their lesson. Now find themselves in a tough spot under their own Tier 1 tower. The charge prey is not enough to close the distance just yet, but try to give chase now. Do the rest of the Food Fighters. There is Kingston flying in for safety. So rally here, everyone, and everyone says, nah, thank you, I think I'd rather go somewhere else. But that will instead be the Tier 1 tower now under pressure from the Food Fighters. Chaotic fighting all the way over to this mid lane.
Chaotic fighting is an understatement. That was everywhere. there were chair. It was a barroom brawl. There were chairs being thrown, tables knocked over, and none of them hitting anybody. It was really cinematic though. So I love that for them. Now we get a chance to take a brief breath here. I say that as Awilix sleeps over a wall to fight again, but. So that is going to put the gold lead up at closer to the 4,500 mark, and that's actually kind of a significant margin at this point. At this point, I would also expect Mystic Sea Serpents to maybe start not engaging as much and looking for a little bit more of a surgical strike as opposed to just an open-ended brawl. Quite a lot of aggression coming onto Agni, who is quite isolated, but Sobek isn't too far away. And
the backup is there. Yeah. Just about enough. What does the disengage look like? Mystic Rush in from Tropic Deck. Doesn't connect with the root either, so that will be that for this aggression. Stretch Milk wants to come see what's happening over here as well. Has noticed that their soul lane is looking specifically fight free at the moment and wants to get in on the action. So grouping up to this mid lane as well. Beacon's on the way in about 5 minutes time, so you know everyone's got to get their muscles flexing ready for this Tier 1 tower dive from the Food Fighters. That guy Mufasa takes the objective down as Stretch Milk just goes to take the enemy down. Now has to retreat because their team has given up. They're getting ready for this beacon in 5 minutes. And there will be a River's Rebuke just about doesn't lock Stretch Milk in very close there to getting that, but not quite. A big cooldown now off the table for Mystic Sea Serpents. Fuego Maego might have jumped in, but no, has the ability to jump away. And all of this space has just created a Pyromancer opportunity that the Food Fighters shall duly take.
Indeed, and completely uncontested there. Good for them. Yeah, we're starting to see them transition into this late game. We're not seeing, knock on wood, we're not seeing nearly as many impetuous aggressions without backup. Having said that, this is a lot of aggression coming out of this chalk. I'm just gonna stop talking actually because I've been consistently wrong.
Oh, great silence! Perfectly timed silence, but not in time. And look at the damage coming up from A1, burning down. Tropic Deck there almost had an opportunity, but not quite enough. Stretch Milk still wants it, still wants to go in, gets one shot, finds a basic. Can they get the last they need? Yes, they shall. But have they overstepped? A great Riptide from Stoops puts them in danger and shall be put down by A1. Stretch Milk and Tropic Deck overstep the mark. It looks like the Food Fighters did take a Gold Fury in that time, so still come out slightly ahead on gold overall, but you really don't want to be giving anything back to the Mystic Sea Serpents, who are now going to be making eyes at this Fire Giant.
No, you don't want to give them any routes for a comeback, and we have reached late game Merlin hours because the shred on those abilities was ridiculous. Really showcasing why you picked the character. Now, having said that, I don't love this Fire Giant engagement. The health bars are awfully low, and the steal potential is awfully high. And that's why, because you have a late game Rama, which is just going to shred your tank.
Yeah, Rama and Agni, everything that the Food Fighters need to face that attempt there on this Fire Giant. Looks like the damage coming out from Anher was not quite enough. Merlin is decent shred. Oh no, in some danger is A1. Great Aegis to save them for a moment, but there's no one to back them up. Kingston is off doing something else, but now here comes Gods Will Crumble. They need to take down this Rama, who decides to go up instead, and low health is Gods Will Crumble. Raining fire from the sky are both backliners. Fuego Maego now gets caught on a flank, coming out from Stretch Milk. Here comes the Raven as well, bashes them away, but it will not do enough. That is 4 members down for the Mystic Sea Serpents, and Food Fighters oblige this Fire Giant and look to take it down themselves.
Yeah, 4 for 0 exchange, that's got to be an instant fire call, and there is no crit on Rama right now, but I'm not sure that they're really going to need it. The shred is going awfully quickly, and there really is no position for Mystic Sea Serpents to contest. So, yeah, they're going to be a Food Fighter secure and going to catapult that gold lead to about 9k.
What would you say that went wrong for the Mystic Sea Serpents while they were going for that Fire Giant?
I would say almost everything. I think it was it was not a good time to pick a fight. I don't think that they really. I think that the way that they actually drug aggro for that was problematic. Bologna took a lot of early poke in that. Obviously, Yamoja did as well and ended up falling early. I think with that, you really need to have more of a man advantage if you're fighting at a disadvantage, like a level advantage, and they didn't really, or just a bodies advantage. I think they started it with 3 people, and then ultimately more Food Fighters rotated to it, so it just kind of fell apart from the beginning in my eyes.
Yeah, it was just tough, and once the cavalry has come in, that's when you're in some danger. Oh, an up-down from Fuego Maego. Certainly going to regret that in a moment, unless they can take down Tropic Deck. Not able to provide the damage just yet, but Gods Will Crumble has now found themselves in a spot where they shall crumble instead. Falls down in the middle of all 5. This is dangerous now for Mystic Sea Serpents. 5 members, all with Fire Giant, at the door of this left side Phoenix. There are 2 tier 2 towers still standing, so I don't think they'll go for the end, but this is very, very costly now for the Mystic Sea Serpents.
It is, and it's almost definitely going to be a Phoenix. They have 1 Pyro Bomb here, but we are going to see Bologna ult in, and they're going to actually make a little bit of a stand.
Oh, great Riptide actually locks in Tropic Deck. They do fall down, but as does Kingston now. Is there more damage on the way? Because A1 is very low and gets stunned into more damage, and they're all dead. Everyone is down for the Mystic Sea Serpents. They put up a defense, and they pay the ultimate price. The Food Fighters pick off the enemy team one by one by one by one. And that will be that. Spawning is Fuego Maego, just tossed into the final Titan death. Food Fighters take game 1.
Yeah, and that was a very clean finish from Food Fighters. Really great engagements for them. The target prioritization was all on point. They picked the right targets, they picked the right objectives to fight over, and then they picked the right time to end. If you're going to kill everybody, there's no better time to end, so I can't hate that. And a pretty clean, like 24-minute game. I feel like we also see a lot of these matches tend to stretch out when teams don't really know quite how to end or they get a little
Yes.
skittish. And didn't quite happen with this game.
Yeah, it was confident calling from food fighters. Like, even if they weren't necessarily making the best call on table, they were always committing to a call. And that's sometimes the only thing you really need to do. If you can keep together as five, especially into an enemy team who are not doing such a great job of that, then yeah, you really create your own opportunities, and just like that, create an opportunity to end the game. Like you said, having the ability to spot when you have an opportunity is one of the more difficult things to do, and the food fighters did a great job of that today.
They really did. Now, if you're Mystic Sea Serpents, what adjustments are you making going into game two? Because it feels like there probably need to be, if not a couple of gameplay adjustments, maybe a couple of drafting ones, um, and possibly, dare I even say, warding.
Yeah, there's a few things there that need to be adjusted for sure, and it all I think it does come down a little bit to the picks and bans. You're certainly going to need something that you can execute a bit more easily. There wasn't really an opportunity there where we saw some great synergy coming out. So I think taking something that's a bit more plug and play, where you just everyone throws the ults at once, that might be where the Mystic Sea Serpents find their success. But we'll have to see if that is what they decide to do when we get into game number 2, which will be coming up right after this break. And we are back, everybody, with this Puddles division matchup between Mystic Sea Serpents and the Food Fighters. This is game number 2 because, of course, the Food Fighters took a 24-minute game number 1, and it was a good performance from them. They kind of took a lead early and just kind of ran with it. But Energy, we discussed just now, what do you think the Mystic Sea Serpents have to change up for their picks and bans, at least, for game number 2?
Yeah, we were talking about that in between casts. I think the biggest adjustment here probably has to be in the duo lane. I think we probably need to see something other than the on her. I felt like it probably just didn't get quite as involved as it needed to, and the damage numbers kind of uh, confirm that theory. I really liked the emoja. I do, as you mentioned, I think maybe something a little bit more consistent to kind of anchor the backline would probably be in their better interest. The Awilix looked good, so you wouldn't necessarily need to change that. Merlin looked pretty good come the late game. The Bellona even looked okay, but I think the dual lane is probably where they need to devote a lot of their attention here.
Let's see if that is what they do as we head on into picks and bans for game number 2. And we saw a very standard set of bans, at least in the first phase of bans, with the only really questionable one being that Charon. But then again, Charon is a popular pick at the moment. You can see it taken off the board. But is there anything that the Food Fighters drafted in that first game that you think the Mystic Sea Serpents might have to consider banning here?
Oh, it's tough. Honestly, after the performance, I would even consider a Sobek ban. Like the plucks were
Good
really
point.
throwing them off of their game. I actually probably wouldn't ban the Bellona. I felt like it really wasn't quite as impactful as we've maybe seen other Bellonas be. Um, Quacken makes a lot of sense. The Athena makes a lot of sense. The Kukulkan makes a lot of sense. You could probably make a case for maybe banning Rama, maybe in the bottom half of the bans, but I would want to get rid of this Sobek.
Yeah,
Um,
it was such a good consistent guardian pickup that we saw so
ooh,
many plucks being hit all the time, and that is a Toth being left through by the Mystic Sea Serpents, and the Food Fighters have picked it up. This is a god that has perennially been banned so far this season, alongside the Kukulka, pretty much always Toth gets banned and sometimes Cuckoo gets let through, but the Mystic Sea Serpents immediately respond with a Thor pick to slam down into this Thoth. It's one of those picks that does quite well into this mid laner, with Thor being able to attack from multiple different angles and multiple different ways, always has to keep this Thoth on their toes, pairing that as well with a Ganesha to have just a lot of space denial, but the Food Fighters running back that Chak and Rama.
I think that that's smart. Honestly, the chalk was really disruptive, and come the late game with how much damage mitigation he gets in Stormcall, it's just very tanky, very difficult to deal with the chalk. The Thoth getting through just seems like a massive red flag. That is so much ranged artillery damage and objective secure. Now, I am interested to hear about the Xbalanque. I feel like he's almost never in that top pick status. He's not a
Right.
bad counter matchup into Rama. There are some things that he does into Rama that specifically are pretty decent. The slow is pretty good. Once he gets a few points in his one, he can box him okay. But generally speaking, never a first choice for ADC. I think I do like it a little bit better than the on her though.
Yeah,
And we are
it's
going to see
still
that
comes a
Sobek
line,
get
right?
banned. Oh, sorry, go
Yeah.
ahead.
No, yeah, totally right. The Sobek does actually get taken off the table by the Mystic Sea Serpent. So interesting that the Food Fighters didn't prioritize it over either the Chuck or the Rama, which may have been left through if they'd ended up saving it. But yeah, we will have to see something else coming out from that Food Fighter support. But you're absolutely right about the Xbalanque. It doesn't all ever seem to be the top guard in the game, but does just about everything you'd want an ADC to do. Has relative safety and can box pretty well. If Expel gets that initial poison dart combo onto you, and then all of a sudden you're in a losing battle trying to trade upwards, which of course only stacks the passive for the Xbalanque, just giving him even more physical power to scale into the late game. It's someone that wants to fight often. And with the way that that dual lane went, maybe, we're seeing a change up here because Fuego Maego on the Anher didn't really get the opportunity to brawl too much. So maybe that's what they want to pick this X-Spell up to do instead. Odin to pair with that, it's now just a ton of space control on the side of the Mystic Sea Serpents. They really don't want this Toth to have any freedom, but I'm seeing a very frightening hover here. Ares, Naja, Beads Burn Central over here. If this gets locked in, that could be very frightening.
Yeah, and Ares making it through this game got banned last game. I will say, if Mystic Sea Serpents locks into Quacken here, this might be the most walls I've seen on any comp, which would be funny in its own way. Having said that, it is going to be the Geb, and I actually really love that as a pairing with the Rama. Having somebody to just kind of peel off a lot of this Thor and Ganesh CC is going to be so valuable.
Yeah, of course, Geb, the classic combo with Rama. Rama, if they get in trouble, they could just take up to the sky in the dual lane, and wherever Geb shall answer the call from, they can roll on over, get that Earthen Shield out, and that will save the life of the Rama most of the time if they're in the situation to do so. So I quite like that choice. It was actually between Ares and Geb seemed to be the call there from the food fighters. They were deciding between those two. It was actually the two gods that got banned out. I'm going to forget everything that I was about to talk about because there's a Persephone being locked in by the Mystic Sea Serpents. If the person playing Rama was struggling to sit down, then I'm pretty sure the person playing Persephone is going to be struggling to stand up.
Yeah, I don't even know where to begin breaking this one down. If this were pre-change Persephone, I would be ecstatic, but here we are several years later with current Persephone, and I can see the vision. Firing a Persephone ult into the middle of an Odin or a Ganesh ult is going to be so disruptive. Having said that, Persephone is going to do okay into Naja, but not great. I think that she's gonna struggle into a lot of what the food fighters have drafted here. There's slows, there's stuns, there's a lot of CC.
Yeah, it's not the best situation for a Persephone, right? Like you said, there is a lot of space control for the Mystic Sea Serpents, but pretty much anyone else would probably do a better job of it. And a very fun fact, which I learned today about Persephone, is that since Persephone's rework, Persephone has been played in the SPL 6 times. And out of those 6 games, Persephone has lost every single one of them. And in those 6 games, which they have lost every single one of them, Persephone has only picked up 1 kill at most per game, totaling 3 kills. So in 3 of those games, didn't even pick up a kill. It's going to be a very strong showing from this Mystic Sea Serpents mid laner if they are to make this Persephone look good. So let's see if they will do that as we head on into game number 2. And all eyes on A1 here. If A1 can pull this off, maybe there is some secret Persephone meta that just everyone else in the entirety of the world is completely oblivious to. Something about me doubts that.
I'll withhold judgment until I see at least 2 minutes of gameplay. After that, I'll be happy to throw down something really arbitrary. I am kind of interested to see how the Naja Thoth combo goes. Like, obviously there's some synergy there with ults, but like these characters kind of come online at different times. I feel like Naja is going to be online fairly early, at least in terms of getting the ult, and Thoth's damage isn't quite there yet, so be interested to see how that matches up compared to the early aggression that you'd get with somebody like the Thor. Now, having said that, I originally, when I heard that there was a wonky pick coming, I thought it was going to be the Xbalanque. Only to be completely gobsmacked when it was a Persephone. I am interested to see how the boxing in this duo lane goes, considering how aggressive the last one went. But we are going to see some of that classic early game boxing between Naja and Thor.
Yeah, the junglers this time not opting to make the long rotation all the way over to the dual lane. They're just going to stick around this mid lane and look for these mid camps instead, which got completely abandoned in game number 1. And instead, at this point, we'd already seen First Blood going the way of the food fighters onto God's Will Crumble, who has chosen to play things a bit more carefully this time on the Thor. But we're scrapping the solo lane here. Kingston, a very early chunk of their health bar, and Lurking behind is God's Will Crumble, making eyes for this Chuck, but they're not going to have a whole lot of backup from their Odin as their damage being output, but there will not be any more. So just sharing the wave there is God's Will Crumble. Tropic Deck wants to make a play, searching for an opportunity onto this Odin. Stretch Milk still sticking around. They know that Naja is nearby, and now they're in danger as Kingston, but not enough danger. Gets away with just a little bit of health to work with.
Yeah, and that is really one of the downsides of playing this Odin. Those first 4 to 5 levels are really quite rough, especially into somebody like the Chalk, whose early game is quite strong. I wouldn't expect Kingston to have a particularly fun time until about the 8-minute mark, at which point it'll start being a little bit more equal. But we're gonna have to rename this duo lane Fight Club, because every time we look over here, there's never a full health bar. It is non-stop brawling, and I love that for them.
An interesting choice there from Sentry to walk into the damage coming out from the Persephone flowers. It's maybe not the recommended strategy, but what do I know?
It's a bold strategy for sure.
Yeah, let's see how it plays out. Right now, it's not working, but we'll have to keep an eye on it. Fires out the shots over the wall, but does not sneak away any mid-camp stands. They'd already been secured by Mystic Sea Serpents. Oh, but a blue buff invade attempted. Not successful over here. Stretch Milk manages to secure their own objective, and in typical solo laner fashion, will just do exactly the same thing the other way. In fact, notice Kingston not opting to rush for that blue buff himself. He's going to take the scenic route over. There's no jungler presence over there just yet.
Nope, not just yet. And I kind of appreciate that, honestly. Like, we've seen some aggression solo side, but one of the Achilles heels of this Mystic Sea Serpents team last time was way too much duo aggression early for the jungler. So taking the time to farm up and actually get your ult online before making those rotations, probably smart.
And the trading back and forth from these mid laners go in the way of A1 at the moment, as you probably would expect from a Persephone. You know, that's sort of what the god is known for, is just consistent poking and prodding in bigger chunks than you might expect. You know, this god still deals decent damage. It's not necessarily the damage numbers that have fallen off, it's just about everything else. But Kingston feeling the damage numbers of Stretch Milk there, who again getting the upper hand in this lane. It's, like you mentioned though, just a rough phase of the game for Odin, especially into a Chuck who's maybe exactly designed for this phase of the game.
Very much so. Now, to be fair, Odin is going to back here and is likely going to pick up, at the very least, a tier 2 of Breastplate, but when that eventually becomes probably a Breastplate of Valor, I would expect this matchup to go a little bit better for him. We are going to see Chalk actually pick up the Blackthorn Hammer again, which, again, I'm not totally sold on it, but he did make it work last game, so maybe he just has the tech that I don't have. Seems to be working out okay. We are also starting to see these first wave of items come out for the rest of the lanes. So Jotuns, Books of Thoth, the support starters, and yet again more brawling here.
Yeah, at the aptly named Fight Club, as you'd mentioned it. That guy Mufasa wants to brawl. Oh, so does God Will Crumble. Dunks down, but not onto their target, just nearby. Wants to find an angle onto this Rama, who does roll away and use the beads, but Alistar now in some danger. Do they have the damage, though, to take them down? Here comes the snipes from Rama. Dharmic Pillars as well, putting out so much damage onto this Geb, but not enough. Getting away with about 100 health there is Alistar. Now on the way is Tropic Deck, has walked over a ward, so they should be aware that this Naja's coming in, but a sash onto God's Will Crumble gets CC'd out. Will have the Earthen Shield as well, but now have they targeted anyone out? Can't get the ult onto Fuego Maego, and that will be that. Low health for the Food Fighters, but they still come away alive.
They do indeed. Just a bizarre engagement across the board. I don't have any other word for it, but you know, I guess if you're either team, you can be grateful that nobody just randomly died, because those were some very low health bars. I am also kind of loving this exchange in mid. We've had a couple moments here where Persephone has very clearly gotten the better of Thoth, and now we've got it going the other way. Actually not a bad pickup into the Thoth itself, let alone the validity of the pick in the game in general right now. Definitely can lock him in place for a lot of the setup damage that she has, but Definitely a slower paced game to start. The gold lead really isn't that significant. It's really just a single kill at this point, and no.
Uh-oh.
Oh, but we are gonna see. Oh, just off the
Oh!
mark.
Trading ults back and
Oh,
forth. Tropic Deck in danger. They will be killed off as well by A1. Now the beads come out from Century as well. Lost everything in that engagement. Did food fighters, including Tropic Deck's life. Now the fight continues on this left-hand side. They want to brawl a little bit, but with no junglers around, it's almost more freedom for these dual laners to just kind of hit each other back and forth. But an attempt there for the food fighters mid and jungle to combine, but unsuccessful.
unsuccessful. Still were able to pick up a kill, and picking up a kill into the jungler is never going to be a bad thing. Especially for your Persephone, which was the major area of concern for us. So the more that she can get ahead, I think the more confident Sea Serpents are going to be as the game scales on and goes later. Now, having said that, the brawling and the pushing up to the tower line continues duo side. And don't hate it. Don't hate it. You gotta find some way to keep your mind engaged in duo side sometimes. And what better way than by hitting an inanimate object? Oh.
It's very notable that the ward coverage has significantly increased in this game, and I think that's what is allowing these dual laners to fight a little bit more confidently. They actually do know where these junglers are, apart from now maybe a Tropic Deck finds an angle onto Fuego Mayago. Great silence from Stooms, but are they now once being targeted, taken to the sky? Is this Ganesh dumped down to the ground, but still has a lot of health to work with? Drops are horrific as well, but the body blocks too strong and they cannot retreat. Tropic Deck picks up the first kill for food fighters, and too late on the rotation is God's Will Crumble. They walk halfway over and just have to turn back away.
Indeed, and good presence of mind from Stooms to not drop the Dharmic pillars there. I think that's oftentimes when you're a Ganesh and you're getting dived, that's probably the first impulse, but I think he had enough presence of mind to know that they probably weren't going to get any kills off of that. So, saving that for another fight, and that's going to even it up. So, gold minimum, negligible difference, kills even, and Thor's over here again, looking to invade this purple.
Wants to go for it, will have probably been heard with that hammer, but here comes the Astral Barrage. Great timing on the hammer smack there to actually secure that purple buff for the Chaos side, and yeah, at least they get something in response to that kill from Stoops. But Sentry now being pressured out. Stoops wants this angle. Here comes the ultimate from Persephone off the mark though, and Tropic Deck making their way from behind. It's 2 versus 3. Sash goes on to Stoops. Will this Ganesh fall again? Say it ain't so. Up to the sky though goes one. Gods Will Crumble lands down also. The damage being fired out from Sentry. They've got some space and they're working with it. That guy Mufasa makes their way to this fight also, but it will not be anything left over for them to fight over. Mystic Sea Serpents trying to force an opportunity there, but didn't manage to get anything for it.
No, unfortunately, they ran into the age-old problem of health bars and mana bars are not cooperative. Really good Odin ult to lock the Chalk in, but he's just so tanky that I think he'll be able to get out of here okay, albeit with about a quarter HP.
Took like all of his health bar is damaged there from that tower. Kingston basically had to do none of it, but might still be in danger because Tropic Deck surely finds an opportunity. Does get the sash in, does put some damage out as well, and the leap will not save Kingston. Stretch Milk gets the axe throw over the wall, but Gods Will Crumble will catch Tropic Deck. Can they find Tropic Deck? Oh, fantastically. Throws a hammer over the wall. The minions there providing the assist with the extra vision. So trading for the jungler for the solo laner seems similarly to game number 1, but this time still keeping things relatively even.
Yep, keeping things even. A slight advantage going the way of Thor, probably just because he hasn't died yet, but really that's a pretty minimal advantage, so. Now, we are going to see a slight deviation in builds here, with Thoth actually opting to get that Divine Ruin in place of what I believe was a Spear of Deso last game. I really like that pickup, but I don't see a lot of healing coming out on the side of Mystic Sea Serpents here.
Yeah, it's an interesting choice. I do wonder if it's purely just for lane combat against A1 here, because this Persephone, of course, can sustain up by consuming those seeds. But yeah, I'm not really sure that's why you'd want to pick it. Alisson takes a ton of damage while going for their initiation, and that is the cue for Fuego Maega to go on in with the Darkest of Nights. A fantastic silence locks him in the Dharmic Pillars, but up into the sky goes Tropic Deck with Fuego Maego, and down from the sky is the shots from that guy Mufasa. Takes down their opposing number, but as Tropic Deck overextended, they're so low on health. Oh my goodness, must have been single-digit health bar there. Still wants to stick around just to try to bait someone in. Now has 44 health after all of this. A1 also makes a rotation all the way over, but it is just the one-for-one trade. Support for ADC, you'd say that goes in favor of the Food Fighters.
Yeah, wow is all I can say. And double wow, we have an uncontested beacon. I didn't think it was possible.
A huge shock.
A huge shock here in game 2 of this Puddles division match. A huge shock and a huge shock. Now, with that being said, they have yet again, everything is even across the board. Like, this is very much a tonal shift from last game where it was an all bets are off, mad dash to the finish, get as many kills on the board quickly. I think by this time last game we had, I want to say like 5 or 6 kills per team. And we just have 6 in total across both right now. So I am interested to see kind of what the gameplay adjustments are as this progresses, because I feel like we haven't quite seen the full depth of synergy that the Food Fighters comp has yet. We haven't really seen Naja taking anybody up and getting schwacked by the final judgment from Thoth yet. And admittedly, there haven't been a lot of huge, massive team fights, but it's still odd that it hasn't happened. I don't think it's happened once yet, or like it's happened, but it's been like not quite synergized perfectly.
No, it's not. Like you'd mentioned, Naja comes online much earlier than Toth, you know, wants to start using these ultimates pretty much on cooldown, as we've seen from Tropic Deck, has gone for the Jotuns and Hydras to just get as much cooldown in the build as early as possible. And now a fight on the left-hand side as well. Fuego Maego is the target, gets lifted out of the Cataclysm, so that's a bit inefficient with the damage there, but this Xbalanque surely has nowhere to go. Fires one shot, that guy Mufasa goes up into the sky and finds the simple first shot as well, but rotating in is Gods Will Crumble, and as A1 as well fires out that Grasp of Death, and now Tropic Deck can't get away just yet. Mystic Shell is good, but Sentry takes down the Persephone. Cat not connected with all of their damage, and now Tropic Deck giving chase to Gods Will Crumble, and here comes Chuck as well, wanting to join in on the action. Stoops can only watch as their health bar gets taken down. 4 kills for the Food Fighters and left, and they're gonna convert that into a Gold Fury.
Which they absolutely should, because there is nothing that Odin can do to really contest this. And that's just going to fall down quite quickly here. And yeah, so with that, that gives us maybe the closest thing we have approaching even a little bit of a gold lead, with about 2,300 now. It's hard to say where exactly it went wrong, because a lot of things it looked like were going really well for Mystic Sea Serpents there. They had a really good Ganesh ult, they had a really great Persephone ult to lock people in, and then a lot of the follow-up damage just never really materialized.
Yeah, I think it did look like Sentry there hit a big ultimate onto A1, and I think if the Persephone had more time to work with there, could have been able to put out that damage. But it's a tough call, right? You saw Tropic Deck was escaping with just a little bit of health, so surely someone should go and finish that off. But in doing so, I believe it was Stoops who actually went to chase that down. They then left the door open for the Food Fighters to re-establish themselves in that fight, and yeah, it just started going downhill from there. But somehow, looks like the Mystic Sea Serpents are going to manage to sneak a Pyromancer in all this. They're going to at least keep themselves relatively close on the gold and get that Runic Bomb in pocket, so if they can find an opportunity to use that, that might get themselves back on the board a bit. So Foo Fighters, they're a little bit sloppy. Certainly could have done more to defend that.
They could have, but you know, these mistakes happen at this level of game, and it's certainly something that's fixable as they make adjustments and, you know, go further on into the season. So they'll have that after action report to look at, make those little adjustments. And as a solo laner, this is a very familiar scenario for me, watching two massive slabs of meat poke at each other and do almost no damage, but I mean, nobody respects the grind to pad damage more than I do, but every now and again you look at it and just like, come on, guys. It doesn't have to be this way. It does look like we have a bit of grouping. Yeah, well, yeah, is there something better you could be doing here? But as it turns out, no, and this is an important part of the solo lane ritual. So that's okay. That's okay.
Beacon is on the way, and I do wonder if either solo laner will look to make the rotation over. It did go uncontested the way of the Mystic Sea Serpents earlier on, so I'm sure the Food Fighters will be looking to fix that. But I do wonder if the Mystic Sea Serpents are up for defending it. As Tropic Dack takes a ton of damage early on. We do see Stoops dashing through his own teammate's wall there. That's an interesting thing from Ganesh I hadn't really considered. But dunking down now as Gods Will Crumble takes a ton of damage in response though, and Choke finds the shot, and Sentry will execute this Thor. And now the fight, A1 leaping in, wants to go for it and will instead pay for it. Now there's Fuego Maego making the late rotation in, but then Shibalonke being batted away by all of the damage coming out. Tropic Dack wants to give chase. Sentry dashes back to safety. Kingston does make the rotation over much earlier than Stretch Milk, but this beacon is surely going the way of Food Fighters. They have 4 members on the point, and yep, the Sea Serpents give it up. They really wanted to contest yet again, but it just isn't working for them.
Yeah, just they're not getting great value out of this Thor pick. Like, they picked up a couple of kills, but in terms of actually hitting the Anvil of Dawn consistently, it's not quite there yet. And A1, unfortunately, we've all done it with Persephone ult, but ulting into the, or jumping into the enemy probably wasn't the play. Just an unlucky series of events for Mystic Sea Serpents there.
Yeah, it's one of the flaws of Persephone, right? That to get your most consistent damage out, you do have to use that leap, but leaping inwards is just almost certainly a death sentence. And Deck here has been chasing down Fuego Maego for feels like about 5 minutes now, and has finally connected with the ultimate and has the backup from that guy Mufasa, but the shield buff plus Aegis, and that is Tropic Dack being dunked on by Gods Will Crumble, returning fire. Persephone ults come in, unfortunately off the mark from A1, so did not give up the mission, did Tropic Dack, but paid the ultimate price for it.
Yeah, and as I was just lamenting the fact that we haven't seen a good Anvil of Dawn, we get one, and it actually nets them a kill onto a reasonably valuable target. So Gods Will Crumble going to be able to expand that level lead to maybe a level and a half or so. So not nothing. But I think what really tells the story here is just look at the kill involvement that we're seeing out of Tropic Dack. It's been involved in every kill that his team has gotten. 1, 3, and 8 across the board, which is just a great stat line. Certainly if you're a jungler, but anybody could be proud of that.
Yeah, especially on a Naja, right? Just the setup king from the jungle. Always wants to make it happen. And obviously it did overstep themselves a little bit just now onto Fuego Maego, but you can't hold back the dog sometimes. You know, you need to have that passion to always try to make an opportunity again, especially on a god like Naja. But now, maybe the Mystic Sea Serpent sensing an opportunity to get back into this game just a touch. The confidence is still flowing, and that's very important because, of course, Mystic Sea Serpent is currently 0 for 3 in games so far this season. They fell down 2-0 in week 1 and are now down 1-0 in this week, and you really don't want to be the team that goes down 0-4 in the first 4 games. So Mystic Sea Serpents, like we said, playing with passion, playing with that fire to get back into this game, but given an opportunity now, a lot of Food Fighters to look at this Oni Fury. It's taken a bit of damage, but it looks like Mystic Sea Serpents want to contest. There's the Darkest of Night to throw some chaos in. Food Fighters do manage to get the objective. What does the fight look like after the fact? Looks like there's a great Persephone ult in there, locking everyone in place. The Odin ult is great as well, and Tropic Dack falls down early. That guy Mufasa, though, finds a great angle onto A1 and takes them down, but all in the while, the rest of their team is suffering. But that guy Mufasa again over the wall with the Astral Barrage, and now comes in to continue firing off shots. Stretch Milk shall get one. Stretch Milk gets a second. Can that guy Mufasa find the triple? Trying to get this Odin. It will not be able to. Sentry dashes forward. Doesn't find the shot, but another 4-kill swing for the Food Fighters.
Yeah, another 4-kill swing, 4-for-1 exchange. Yeah, if you're Tropic Deck, you've got to be ecstatic about that result. This is going to be, at the very least, an easy Pyromancer, and it looks like it might even be an easy Big Fire. We are 21 minutes in the game, so it is definitely fire season. And Rama is dealing out pretty decent numbers, actually top damage in the game by a good margin. So this is going to go down largely uncontested, and is probably going to put that gold lead closer to 9,000 when all said and done.
Everyone's juggling the aggro a little bit here. Stretchmilk wants to take it. Currently on Sentry, who taking a lot of damage actually from that beam, but it will be okay to take down that Fire Giant. And Tropic Deck, of course, did respawn in the meantime, so it is all 5 members of the Food Fighters with Fire Giant now. And Mystic Sea Serpents, they have tried and tried and tried to contest these objectives, but every time it seems to blow up in their faces.
Yeah, it really does, and it's hard to kind of pinpoint what adjustment needs to be made because it almost feels like the comp itself is kind of, it's not conducive to them making the plays that they need to make. I think what we need to see first of all is probably some better and more carefully executed small engagements. We've seen a number of different times here they've been able to pick off individuals, but not with any consistency. There's still been some very narrow escapes, and I think that's how they kind of have to crawl their way back into this game, is with little incremental victories as opposed to trying to get a massive team wipe. Because whenever they've tried to go for the massive team wipe, it's gone not in their favor.
Yeah, like you said, consistently being able to pick off, specifically Tropic Deck actually, fallen 4 times, which is 4 of the 5 kills that the Mystic Sea Serpents have picked up. So when this Naja is causing as much chaos as they have been and setting up for their team, when Mystic Sea Serpents have found success against them, it then leaves them wide open to just everyone else. So keeping track of what the rest of the team is doing needs to be noted. Now Stretchbolt blinking in, gets a good ultimate on a few members. But here the rest of the team is Tier 2 tower has fallen, and great discipline from the Food Fighters there. They take the objective off the map and then they retreat and just look at something else, because they don't have to take a team fight here if they don't want to.
No, they don't. They can afford to play this as slowly as they want, and they have the levels and items and just overall power to back that up and really punish any attempt on Sea Serpent's part to contest them. Now, we are going to see a back here, which I think is probably smart. You want to back, use all the gold you just gained, finish off some of those starters or items or upgrades. And then what I'd like to see is a left-hand push. Gold's going to spawn before too long, and there's still the tier 2 in left. And I expect them to clear out both of those. And it looks like the pings on the map confirm it as much, that that's going to be the goal.
Clairvoyant there from the chair 2 seat, just knowing exactly what the Food Fighters want to do. But you're exactly right. This game has almost made itself simple from here. You know, you've got the solids, 6,000 gold lead or so. You're in a position where you don't really need to make things happen. You just need to kind of paint by numbers your way through this game. Take the objectives down, see if you can take a Phoenix, but if not, just wait for the next Fire Giant. And it's all of the onus is on Mystic Sea Serpents to make something happen. But like I mentioned, they don't really have the comp to do it. You know, what would you say is the ideal situation for the Mystic Sea Serpents here? How do they get back into it?
I think, no, that's a great question, because it really is kind of a nuanced answer. I think we're going to have to see, like, a layering of abilities here. We're going to have to see some beads burning first. If they don't have that, then I don't see them succeeding on a lot of these pushes. Persephone is just going to get shredded by the artillery cannon that is Thoth. And we're going to see quite a lot of... Oh my goodness. And that's going to be a kill onto Fuego Maego. Oh boy.
This is looking very dicey now for Mystic Sea Serpents. They do manage to take down Sentry, but they're trading a lot for it. That guy Mufasa wants to brawl because they've got the Earthen Shield as well, and they can fight back. Now, 4 members still alive for the Food Fighters. I do wonder if they sense any more opportunities. Stretchmilk is just walking at A1, who can do nothing about this, and they're going for the end. They actually want to commit to this. There are no tier 2 towers still standing, so Stoops, of course, targets out the main damage dealer, but then the damage just faces onto them instead. What can this Persephone do to fight back? Stretchmilk looks like they might fall down, and they have already gone down half HP. Is this Persephone the Titan? Even lower than that. That guy Mufasa's dishing out the damage. Minions coming in to save the day. There's the ultimate being refreshed. The damage is coming up, but it's not enough.
Wow.
A triple kill from A1 will not save the day. The Foo Fighters march it down this left-hand lane. They take whatever they can. They cut it close, but they do end up taking game number 2.
Wow. Goodness me, what an ending, and such a minor heartbreak there if you're a Persephone fan, to watch the Persephone very nearly save the game. Like maybe a second and a half away from getting a complete team wipe, but a very cleanly fought engagement on the side of Food Fighters. That the Thoth ult that just shredded the backline really broke that fight open, and from that point on, there was really not a lot that you could do on the side of Sea Serpents to kind of claw back in and maintain parity. God's Will Crumble did a great job of killing the Thoth in that fight, but then immediately died himself. So yeah, I think there's a lot of good to take from this set though on both sides. I think there's a lot of good things that we can see here, and probably some ground for improvement too.
Yeah, the backline play from the Mystic Sea Serpents was clearly doing quite well towards the end there. It was pushing out pretty high damage numbers, but when there's a Toth on the enemy team, man, they're just capable of hitting a long range ult for 75% of your health, and then it's just whoever wants the kill more ends up going for it. And Fuego Maego, they had a lot to give in that last team fight, but unfortunately was not able to do it. So yeah, very rough time there in that end stage, but just good play overall coming out from the Food Fighters. They're really making up for that loss in week 1. And honestly, if I got the Food Fighters in week 3, I'd be a little bit intimidated by them. But Energy, that is it for today. It was a quick one. Very quick games coming out from Food Fighters here. They take a fast 2-0 victory. Do you have any closing thoughts on the set as a whole?
You know, I think this is a really great representation of the kind of competition you'd tend to see at this level. There's a lot of energy, and I really love the tenacity that both teams had and just kind of sticking with it, even when plays didn't quite work out in their favor. I'm excited for one to see how both of these teams develop as the season goes on. I think they're both in a decent place to start, and they can only improve from here. So excited to see where both of these teams go.
Wise words as always. But that is it for today. Of course, I've been Judas Priestley, joined on the cast by Hanaji, and in the background we've had Raptor providing all the visuals you need in these fantastic new spruced up visuals from Quacken Smite League. It's been a hell of an experience, but that will be it for this week of games. And well, if anything continues on the way we've seen it so far, we're in for a very, very exciting season. So make sure you tune in next time to Quacken Smite League.